Okay, so you're tuning in because you're thinking about Jakarta. Maybe it's a potential move, or maybe you're just curious about this huge Asian city. You want the real story on rent, living costs, not just, random numbers floating around. You want to get clued in without needing a massive spreadsheet. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Exactly. Think of this as your quick guide to understanding the money side of living in Jakarta.
Yeah.
We've really boiled down the key info from moveandstay.com. They've been helping business travelers and expats find their feet in Asia for, over 25 years now?
Wow, yeah. That's a long time.
It is. So they have a really solid perspective on the market there.
Right. So our mission today is pretty simple. Pull out the must-know details so you get a real sense of what budgeting for Jakarta actually involves. We're covering housing, utilities, day-to-day spending, the whole picture. Okay, let's start with the big one. Where could you actually live in Jakarta?
Well, Jakarta's got quite a mix of housing. Moveandstay.com makes it clear there are options for different budgets and different lifestyles. You've got apartments, obviously, but also shared places, houses, even villas sometimes.
Okay.
The real challenge, like in any big city, is finding that sweet spot between what you want and what, feels comfortable financially.
Let's get into the details then. Apartments seem like a common starting point, and movingstay.com, with all their experience, probably sees a lot of that. They mention a range, $700 to $2,500 USD a month for a one-bedroom. That's quite a wide range.
It really is, and it tells you a lot about Jakarta market diversity. At that $700 end, you're likely looking at something more basic, maybe a bit further out. Still, saves a good chunk of money.
Right.
But if you're aiming for the top end, maybe $2,500 or even more, you could be getting a pretty modern place, Western amenities, prime spot, potentially even pricier than some other big Asian cities. And MoveStay.com's data backs this up. Jakarta had a high rent index score in 2023, suggests it's a competitive rental market, strong demand.
Okay. But what about folks really watching the pennies? Shared housing looks like a much cheaper way in. MoveandStay.com says rooms can start around $400 a month.
Yeah, that's a big difference, isn't it? And it definitely makes Jakarta more accessible if you're on a tighter budget. Sharing doesn't just cut rent. It usually means lower utility bills, too. Plus, like MoveandStay.com points out, it's a good way to meet people, especially if you're new.
True.
But based on their experience over the years, they really stress getting the terms clear up front. How bills are split, house rules, that sort of thing. Avoids headaches later.
Good point. Okay. Shifting gears, if you need more room or just prefer your own space, there are houses and villas. MoveandStay.com puts the average house rent around $2,500 a month, maybe ranging from $1,500 up to $5,000. Villas are in a similar ballpark, $2,000 to $5,000, often with extras, they say.
Exactly. These cater to a different need, maybe families or people who work from home and need that separate space. And MoveandStay.com notes that sometimes those villa perks, like maybe pool maintenance or security included, can simplify things. But yeah, it's a bigger financial step up. It's all about weighing those extra comforts against the higher cost.
Okay, so you found a place. Now, what about keeping the lights on, the water running? MoveandStay.com suggests utilities are generally pretty reasonable in Jakarta. That sounds good.
It is encouraging, yeah.
Let's start with electricity. They mention about Rp 1,500 per kilowatt hour. What does that translate to monthly, roughly?
So looking at MoveandStay.com's figures, a smaller apartment might run you, say, Rp 200,000 to Rp 400,000 a month, a medium place, maybe more like Rp 400,000 to Rp 700,000.
Yeah.
And larger homes, they could easily top Rp 700,000.
Okay.
But these are just averages, of course. How much you actually use makes a big difference. Simple things, energy-efficient bulbs, turning stuff off, they do help keep bills down.
Makes sense. Now, water. MoveandStay.com gives an example, a typical family using maybe 20 cubic meters. What's the cost look like there?
Their guidance suggests for basic usage, maybe one or two people, you might be in the Rp 50,000 to Rp 11,000 range each month. An average family could be looking at Rp 100,000, Rp 200,000. High usage could push it over Rp 200,000.
Right.
And again, MoveandStay.com highlights conservation.
Yeah.
Shorter showers, fixing leaky taps, little things add up to control those costs.
And internet, pretty essential nowadays. MoveandStay.com says it's widely available, reasonably priced. Typical plan around Rp 200,000 a month.
Yeah, that seems to be a common baseline.
Yeah.
You'll find basic packages, maybe 10, 20 Mbps speeds in that Rp 200,000 to Rp 300,000 monthly range, according to their findings.
Okay.
Need something faster. Mid-range plans, maybe 30, 50 Mbps, could be Rp 300,000 to Rp 500,000.
Right.
And for really high speeds, 100 Mbps plus, you could be looking at Rp 500,000 or more per month.
Wow.
MoveInStay.com advises checking things like data caps and contract links, too, when you're choosing a provider.
Right. Good call. Okay, moving beyond rent and utilities, what about just everyday life? Food's a big one. MoveAndStay.com says costs here can really swing wildly.
Oh, absolutely. Their experience really shows it depends heavily on your habits. If you're happy shopping at local markets, cooking local food, it can be very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lean towards imported stuff, expect your grocery bill to jump. Eating out, same deal. Super cheap street food stalls versus, fancier restaurants.
Yeah.
It varies hugely. MoveAndStay.com gives a wide estimate, just highlighting how much your choices matter in this category.
Transportation's another key piece, especially given Jakarta's notorious traffic. What are the options and costs based on MoveAndStay.com's insights?
They lay it out pretty clearly. Public transport buses, trains,
Yeah.
the MRT system, that's your cheapest bet. Maybe around 20 to 40 pounds for a monthly pass, they estimate.
Okay, pounds there.
Yeah, it
Interesting.
seems that's how they frame that estimate. Then you have ride-hailing apps like Gojek or Grab. Super convenient, right?
Definitely.
But the costs add up. Could be 50 pounds to 150 pounds a month, maybe more depending on usage. And owning a car or motorbike. That's the most expensive when you add fuel, parking, tolls, maintenance, everything.
Yeah, the hidden costs.
And MoveAndStay.com makes a really sharp point. Jakarta traffic jams don't just cost you time. They can actually increase your transport costs, too, whichever way you travel. Something to factor in.
Definitely. And what about fun? Entertainment? What might someone budget for that?
Well, Jakarta's got loads to offer. Cultural sites, museums, often cheap entry, right up to bustling nightlife. MoveAndStay.com suggests maybe 50 pounds to 200 pounds plus a month. But honestly, it's completely down to your lifestyle. How often you go out, what you like to do.
So very personal.
Very.
Okay, let's circle back to rent for those who want to get really specific. MoveAndStay.com points to factors that drive those prices up or down. Location seems huge.
Oh, massive.
Yeah.
As MoveAndStay.com emphasizes time and again, central areas like Menteng or Kuningan command higher rents. It's all about convenience. And go close to business hubs.
You're right.
Head further out towards the edges, and you'll generally find things get more affordable. Proximity to good transport, international schools, shops, all that plays a big role in the price tag. MoveInStay.com sees this consistently.
And the size of the place, obviously. A studio versus multiple bedrooms. But it's not just the room count, is it?
No, exactly. MoveInStay.com's experience shows the actual square footage matters. The layout, too. Apartments that feel more open or ones with balconies or a bit of outdoor space, they often fetch a higher price.
Okay.
It's that trade-off. MoveAndStay.com often sees people balancing how much space you really need against saving some money with a smaller place.
And then amenities. MoveAndStay.com gives a useful breakdown: pools, gyms, security, parking, how they bump up the rent.
Yeah, and what I find insightful from MoveAndStay.com here is they really encourage you to think, will I actually use this stuff?
Good point.
Like, does paying extra for a building with a gym make sense if you never go? They suggest weighing the added cost against your actual habits. Maybe paying for a separate gym membership is cheaper overall.
Smart. To make this more concrete, MoveAndStay.com compares central Jakarta with the suburbs. What's the gist of their comparison?
Their analysis shows central Jakarta means premium prices. They quote ranges like IDR 4 million to 12 million for a one-bedroom. The payoff is convenience, being right in the mix.
Right.
In the suburbs, though, it's more budget-friendly. A three-bedroom might go for IDR 5.5 million, up to maybe 20 million. You might have a longer commute, sure, but you often get more space for your rupiah.
And MoveAndStay.com also mentions how expat preferences can influence things.
Yes, that's a really key insight from their work, specifically with expats over the years. Things like being near international schools, having access to certain amenities common in expat compounds, robust security, maybe even English-speaking building management.
Oh, okay.
These things are often priorities, and they tend to drive up costs in particular neighborhoods that cater well to that international community.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk practical advice. Finding affordable housing. MoveAndStay.com suggests negotiating rent is normal.
Yeah, often expected even. MoveAndStay.com really stresses doing your homework first. Know what similar places nearby are renting for. That gives you leverage. And they advise just being polite, being reasonable. Sometimes, offering to sign a longer lease, say 2 years instead of 1, can help you negotiate a slightly lower monthly rate. Landlords like stability.
Good tip. What about using local real estate agents? MoveAndStay.com recommends this.
They do. The big advantage as moveandstay.com has seen countless times, is that local agents know the market inside out. They often know about places before they hit the big websites, or properties that aren't listed online at all.
Oh, interesting.
Plus, they can really help with the negotiation and just navigating the whole rental process, which can be tricky if you're new. MoveAndStay.com suggests finding reputable agents who know the specific areas you like.
And then there's the online search, which is where most people probably start. Any advice from moveandstay.com on that front?
Yeah, they suggest casting a wide net, use multiple websites, different search terms, set up email alerts so you see new listings fast.
Be quick.
Exactly. Be
Yeah.
ready to act quickly if you see something promising. But also, moveandstay.com adds a note of caution. If a listing looks too good to be true, it probably is. Always verify. Always try to see the place in person before sending any money.
Absolutely crucial. Finally, the lease agreement itself. Moveandstay.com points out some key things to watch for.
Definitely. They highlight the basics you need to check. The lease duration, how and when rent is paid, any options to renew later.
Okay.
Also, deposit requirements. How much is it usually 1 to 3 months rent? How do you pay it? And importantly, what are the conditions for getting it back? MoveAndStay.com strongly advises documenting the property condition when you move in, take photos.
Yes. Good advice anywhere.
Totally. And finally, look at the termination clauses. What happens if you need to leave early? Are there fees? How much notice do you need to give? Can you sublet? MoveAndStay.com really recommends having a local friend or even a lawyer if it's a complex agreement. Just look it over before you sign. Ask questions. Don't sign if you don't understand something.
Sound advice. So wrapping this part up, based on this deep dive into moveandstay.com's insights, finding a place in Jakarta really means balancing location, property type, and your budget. Cheaper options like shared housing are there, but you've got to factor in all the costs. Research, flexibility, seems like those are key.
And what's really valuable from MoveAndStay.com, I think, is that long-term perspective they bring from working across Asia. It's not just data points. It's a practical, grounded view of what finding and affording a place in Jakarta really entails. They understand the market nuances.
Okay, great discussion. So thinking about everything we've covered, Jakarta's development, the costs, here's something to ponder. With the city growing and demand for housing likely rising, how might that impact affordability long term for both Indonesians and for people moving there from abroad? Definitely food for thought as Jakarta keeps changing.